If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schafer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump. So look, for the first 47 minutes, we don't talk a whole lot about fitness, but we do have some fun conversation in that intro portion.
It is fun, Sal.
We start out by talking about the Fyre documentary. Justin has an interesting theory about that.
And I'm excited because literally while we were doing this podcast, I got a text message back saying that Mark will be here.
Oh, he is going to come on the show.
He knew it.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yes,
excellent.
let's get him on.
We'll ask him if that documentary was an inside job. Then we talked about the facials that we got from Four Sigmatic. They have a new product that you can put on your face. You can actually eat it too, which is kind of interesting.
I licked a lot of mine.
Shows you that it's not toxic. And they have a serum. I don't know. I think we look, a good 5 years younger. What do you think?
I mean, it exfoliated me completely.
Very nice.
Whatever
Look,
that means.
Four Sigmatic is one of our sponsors. They do have the highest quality mushroom-based supplements you will find anywhere with a patented dual extraction process. So we got you guys a discount. All you got to do is go to Four Sigmatic, FOURSIGMATIC.com/Mind Pump. Use the code Mind Pump at checkout for discount. My favorite product are the cordyceps. I'll take that before hard workouts. Then I talked about my son's workouts and how we're trying to take advantage of his testosterone boosting that's happening through this puberty phase, and the gains he's getting right now is pretty funny. It's cracking me up.
Oh, yeah.
Then we talked about YouTube's new stance on borderline content, and Adam told us how the Vegan Gains channel got kicked off of YouTube. I mean, that guy's a dick, but I don't know if he should be kicked off.
Very interesting.
Then we talked about new contact lenses that they're talking about that can magnify, like 3 times magnification.
What? Go gadget eyeballs.
Crazy. And then we went on a tangent talking about the evolution of humans with technology. Here we go, Bionic penis.
Yeah.
Then I talked about the documentary on Prime that is really cool called Inner World, Outer World, and the value of wisdom versus knowledge. They are 2 separate things. And that's 47 minutes. And then we get into the fitness stuff. So the first fitness question was, what is our best advice to help break food addiction? It can be a very hard thing to change how you eat. It could almost feel like you're addicted to a drug. We give our advice based off of our experience training people for a long time.
Forever.
The next question, what do we think about the new diet that has you eat and train according to your neurotype? Is this a new fad? Is there validity? Or is it just baloney?
Great marketing.
And the next question, what are some of our favorite Strongman type lifts and what are their value? And the final question, we get nice and touchy-feely with each other. What are the most paradigm-shattering things we have learned from each other? Also, I'd like to remind everybody that you only have 48 hours left. There's 2 days left. That's it. For the 50% off discount on MAPS Anabolic. That is our foundational flagship program. Phenomenal for building up your metabolism, building muscle, building strength. All you got to do is go to mapsfitnessproducts.com. Use the code RED50, RED50, no space, to get that discount. You only have 2 days left. After that, that promotion is gone. Also, if you already have MAPS Anabolic, you can still go on that site and check out our other MAPS programs. We have a lot on there. That site, again, so you don't forget, mapsfitnessproducts.com.
T-shirt time!
And it's T-shirt time.
Oh, it's my favorite time of the week.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Every time it is.
Every time it's the favorite.
Well, we've had a really good week. Lots of people heeded your call to put out reviews. We've had over 50 reviews.
Wow. Son.
So starting
That's
with
what I
our
like to see.
iTunes winners, we got Jordo37, Jen Braden, Pappy 7245, CLM 925, and on Facebook, we have Shannon Jade Green, Rebecca Aaron, James J. Johnson, Caitlin Merrill, Charlie Brown, Sarah Berkeley, John Francis, and Susan Eichhorn Young. All of you are winners in the name I just read to iTunes at mindpumpmedia.com. Send your shirt size, your shipping address, your Instagram handle, and we'll get that shirt right out to you.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown.
Dude, I think your theory, Justin,
Yeah.
is brilliant. on the Fyre documentary?
Think about it.
I don't know if it's true though.
But it doesn't
don't
matter.
know.
It's brilliant. It could totally be true.
I just see it as like he would be the guy to hustle something like that. Like, and plus, like he has access to all this footage, and I'm sure he has rights to this footage. So the incentive is there for him to now put it out there to make money off of it.
So the theory is that the main dude, Billy, whatever his name is, what's his name?
Yeah.
McFarlane.
McFarlane, yeah.
Billy McFarlane, the guy who.
I thought he was related to Seth MacFarlane from Family Guy. He kind of looks like him with a smile
so
too.
he the guy who put together the whole Fyre music festival on the island that went to shit, and now he's being sued for $100 million, might go to jail or whatever. The theory is that he put this documentary together that's now going viral, and to make money off of his failure. And you know what? It's a brilliant idea because you're right. A lot of the footage was on the documentary was from people who filmed the whole process of the music festival, which he owned.
Yeah.
He owned all that, right?
Yeah, but I also wonder then if somebody like Chris Smith, who I think is the name of the guy who directed it or put it together, right? I mean, how smart would that be of him if he knew of the story, knew the guy's going to get sued for $100 million, and walked up to him and said, "Hey, I'm going to pay you $100,000 for all your footage that you're going to you."
I'll tell you another thing that tipped me off to that theory was one of the guys, like towards the end of the documentary, he gets a call from Billy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I said good things.
Yeah,
said lots of good things about you."
But they put it on the documentary, which makes me feel like he inserted that to make himself look like he's still talking to the guys that he have ripped off. So he's kind of a nice guy.
Partially that, but also that he knows all these people that are getting interviewed, and he's an integral piece to this whole thing.
Because think about it. Think about how brilliant this would be. You tell everybody, look, they're going to do a documentary about this whole process. Just be honest. Just be as honest as possible, and they're going to put it up there, and watch what happens. And for him, because how do you survive? How does your reputation survive something as terrible as that? Is that you put it all out there,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you call yourself a douche.
Yeah.
Right.
Whoa, that would be brilliant. Aren't we going to have what's his name on the show?
Dude,
Mark Weinstein.
So we were going back and forth on text. Yeah. And then I have Brianna send over all his stuff for flight and everything like that. And he asked, like, do you have an idea of what the boys want to talk about, this and that?
Oh.
And she and he says that the email says, because I really don't feel like hashing out the Fyre thing because it was so traumatizing for him to go through. And I said to her, be very direct. That's exactly what I want to bring him on the show for.
Well, you were just on a documentary.
Right.
Completely, no holds bar talking about it.
Right.
I don't understand.
So she replies and told him exactly what I want on there or what I want to talk about. And we haven't heard back now. So I'm letting a couple days go by before I kind of reach out.
That just makes
myself.
that just makes Justin's conspiracy theory feel more true.
Right? Like they're all orchestrated to say specifically what they need to say for this documentary.
It would be brilliant. Like if you fucked up that bad, and this guy's a hustler, right? He figures out ways to make money.
100. Look at what he did afterwards.
I know.
With the email list.
That was
well. That was the
shyster.
dumb.
That's the part that I thought was kind of fishy. That you'd
film that.
Yeah, you would film that.
Yeah.
Like you just got busted for doing all this stuff. Why would you literally show yourself, doing a Ponzi scheme through somebody else? Like that's.
Yeah.
Then again, someone with that massive of an ego does crazy shit like that.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm not going to jail.
Right.
Like his whole thing is I'm not going to jail.
Right.
And it's almost like he's flaunting it out there that
Well,
he just can get away with this shit.
So if you fuck up really bad, the worst thing that happens to you is that people speculate about you and talk about you rather than
like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, no, what I mean, rather than having
bad press.
all the video and stuff out for people to watch for themselves. Because people tend to forgive when you come out and say, this is what I did and I'm sorry type of deal. Very interesting.
I don't know. I smell a rat.
Yeah. Oh, so he was sentenced to 6 years, huh?
Oh, so he did get
Yeah.
sentenced.
But he's probably going to go to like Club Fed or whatever they call it, where they send the rich people.
Yeah.
Where it's like an open,
Lots
open
of
jail with
tennis
like,
and
gyms
and cocktails.
Yeah, stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That
Conjugal visits.
gluten-free,
Yeah.
breakfast. Anyway, dude, Did you see? So I did we all posted the picture of us getting the Four Sigmatic facials, which that was great.
That was fun. That was Rachel's idea, by the way, and I appreciate it.
Can I just say that I think this is a brilliant move by Four Sigmatic. Not that they're getting into skincare, although I think that's cool. They are experts in mushrooms, and mushrooms do have some amazing detoxifying properties. So it only makes sense that you would, that putting it on your skin would be good.
Right.
But what I think is brilliant is that they've made their skincare products that they just put out, the mask and the serum, edible.
Yeah.
Now,
Brilliant.
absolutely brilliant.
Has anyone done that?
No.
I don't.
I can't. No.
Nobody's done that yet?
Now here's why it's brilliant, because people listening right now might be like, why would I want to eat the face mask? It's
Save water.
Yeah,
Because it's like, it's on your face anyway.
Right.
Might
Eat
as
your
well,
friend's face.
eat
lick
your
it.
friend's face. No, eat your friend's face. Take some bath salts. Eat your friend's face.
It's a new hashtag.
Hey, Four Sigmatic so mad at our
I eat
commercials.
face.
We just changed their hashtag.
Yeah, eat your friend's face.
Eat your friend's face.
Eat your friend's face.
No, the reason why it's brilliant is because people need to realize this. What you put on your skin, a lot of which goes in your body.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
a massive organ.
if you can eat something safely, it's more likely to be safe to put on your skin or not as toxic type of
Right.
deal. Because like, how many skincare products can you eat without getting sick?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's just like so many chemicals, and your skin's just absorbing all that. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, brilliant. But Jessica likes the serum a lot. She likes serum oils. Have you guys used? You put stuff on your face?
No, so I don't.
don't?
So
Okay.
explain the serum to me, because I got a chance. Obviously, we all, there's photos of us using the face mask, but we didn't do the serum. I didn't do the serum. At
Yeah,
least.
we did. Justin and I did.
Yeah.
So what is
we
this-
went all in.
Explain the serum to me.
It's so
It's like an oil.
It's an oil with essential oils and other things that Four Sigmatic is deemed to be good for your skin. But what I like about serums versus like lotions is that they seem to make your skin feel more supple. And it gives you a little bit. It's not oily. It sounds like it'd be oily, but it's not. It just
Supple
feels
is a great word.
Yeah, it feels a lot better. Jessica's been on this serum kick now for the last 6 months. She said it's like the best thing. Like putting serums on are better than using lotions, and she likes the Four Sigmatic one. So they did a really good job.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No,
Dude,
really good job.
So this I've been training my son, right? I got to tell you this story.
Is he consistent right now? What's going on?
About 2 days a week.
Okay.
About 2 days a week now. We're being consistent.
And when he does lift, it's all on his own accord. This isn't you prompting him, or do you kind of prompt
he
him?
brings it up, so he'd be like, "Hey, I want to, make sure we get some time to lift, okay?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then if we can at that moment, then I'll bring it up later. Say, "Hey,
Okay.
did you still want to lift?"
Got it.
So yesterday, I took him out to the garage and we worked out, and I forgot. First off, you have, what do they call them? Newbie gains. When you first start working out, how fast your strength goes up.
Yep.
Then on top of that, he's a 13-year-old boy, and his testosterone levels are ramping up.
He's on natural steroids.
Yeah, they're just going up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At a very high level. I forgot how fast you respond at that age. Even though I trained a lot of kids, I haven't trained now for a few years. Yeah. I take him out there to work out, and it's 5 to 10 pound gain on everything. Yeah. No matter what we're doing.
You could almost do no wrong.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane. We're doing bench press. He's doing 4 more reps than last time. And I'm watching his form and his intensity. We're pushing the sled, 30 more pounds on the sled, and he's pushing it faster. Like everything is going up, and it's pretty funny.
Now the irony in that, I think that's also what feeds into the problem, because most kids that are getting into lifting weights don't like this, or at least for me, and I don't know if you guys can agree or not, but I had no fucking clue what I was doing,
right.
but it was working because the same thing. I was cable curling, on the 50 last week, and now I'm on the 60. Like you're getting stronger. I couldn't but do the bar on the bench press, and then I'm putting.
No,
10s.
you're right. I mean, it's a real formative time of your life, and so it's like the hardwiring a lot of these patterns is something that's happening, and it's like you are responding so quickly, and this becomes like the formula from then on. So that's what's really hard about breaking a lot of these patterns within this time of your life. So it's good that you're teaching them proper mechanics and really getting things established the right way.
I'm also teaching him intensity and work ethic. It's like we were out there, and he was pushing the sled. And I'm like, the last set. So I ramp him up, right? So first set, just the sled, and he'll do one lap where it's really slow, full range of motion. Then I'll have him come back much faster because I want to work on his cardio stamina a little bit, and then I'll add weight, and I'll do that a few times. So by the third set, I had, how much did I have on the sled? I had the sled plus another 50 plus another 35. Dude. So he's pushing it back, and about halfway through, he goes, ow, and he kind of stops a little bit, and I'm like, what? And he goes, oh, my leg. And I'm like, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, and he keeps pushing it. So then when we came back, I'm like, did you like twist your leg or something? He goes, no, it hurts because I'm pushing hard. And I looked at him like, don't ever say ow again.
That's not an ow response.
I'm like, listen, if you're going to say ow, it's because you hurt yourself. If you say ow because if you feel the pain from working out.
Because it's burning.
I'm not going to let you work out anymore. I'm trying to train him, you know what I mean? Like, don't ever say that again. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So that's funny. And then while he's doing the workout, I remember this too as a kid because he's got my genes, right? So skinny kid. And I remember when I first started working out, the only thing that seemed to grow when I first started working out were my veins. Like, I just get veinier. I don't really get any muscle. Yeah. So he's doing curls, and I've seen, like, veins coming out of his forearms, and he's got a little vein on his bicep.
Just popping and
yeah,
throbbing.
So while he's doing curls, I'm singing curls for the girls real loud in the whole neighborhood to embarrass him. You know, like, curls for the girls. He's doing them. He's laughing. And then I pull up his little sleeve, and I'm like, is that a fucking vein on your bicep? Like, you got a vein going on? What's going on? He's, like, laughing.
Oh, man.
It's so fun to do that shit, man. It's a blast.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
But it is true, though. I mean, I really think that because he's young, though. Like, you're starting him younger than I think. I wonder what the average age is. What do you think the average age that...
To start resistance training?
Yeah.
Oh, 20s probably.
I would think so, too.
Yeah.
And so, when we're 20, we're at that point where we think we know everything, and so it's a very dangerous time, I think, in your life to be getting involved in resistance training. And then you get into resistance training, you start listening to some random person that's a celebrity or whatever like that.
Or some buff guy at the gym.
Yeah, whatever, right? And then you see massive results, and it's like nobody is telling you otherwise. Like, nobody's going to come in and say, like, hey, you're going about this all wrong. What you're doing should be done this way. You're not convincing me because I'm 20, and every time I do what I learned from somebody else, I'm seeing results.
Well,
it's literally on you.
I think I'll say this right now, and this, I'm not saying this to piss people off who didn't start when they were young, but if you're a kid, or if you have kids and you want them to lift weights, it's the best time to start lifting weights is right around puberty, because for two different reasons. One, you get this favorable hormonal response during puberty where, especially in boys, anabolic hormones, they spike. I mean, they go from little boy hormone levels to, when my son's 18, he's going to be at peak gorilla. You know what I'm saying? His testosterone levels will be at the highest they've ever been, and it goes through this really fast ramping up process. I remember when I was 13 or 14, I even got a little bit of gyno from puberty. Obviously all natural. I didn't take steroids or anything at that age, but I remember getting a little bit of gyno, going to the doctor because I got all scared, right? Doctor's, testing me out. And he's like, oh, sometimes the excess testosterone gets converted to estrogen because you have so much. So you get this high testosterone levels. You want to take advantage of that. Plus, because what's going to happen to a teenage boy, especially, but this happens to girls too, even if they don't work out, their bodies are going to build muscle. Even if they don't work out, even if they're inactive, a 20-year-old boy has more muscle. An inactive 20-year-old boy has more muscle than he did when he was inactive at 14. Okay, mm-hmm. You want to take advantage of that momentum and lift weights because we've all talked about muscle memory in the past, but new studies are coming out showing the scientific reason or the physiological reason as to why muscle memory exists in the first place. When your muscles grow, you increase these satellite cells, you increase these nuclei in muscle cells. And as the muscles shrink when you stop working out, the cells don't go away, they're finding. So although you lose the muscle that you might have gained, you have the control mechanisms in place in essence. And this is I know I'm explaining it terribly, but you have as many nuclei as you had when they were bigger. Those don't go away. And that's why the muscles come back faster. So my theory is
muscle memory.
If you lift weights when you're going through puberty, that's a great time because you're more likely to build permanent muscle. You're more likely to do that.
It's interesting. I have taken a lot to heart from all these like professionals we brought on, especially from the sport science background and this whole TPP concept and active play. I had, just intuitively have been doing that by building like climbing walls and doing all these types of things with my kids, like at the age stage that they're at. But, I wanted to really dive into that even further. So we got them, even signed up for things like parkour, gymnastics, like as part of like an additional, way for them to express all these different movements and patterns and solidify, their body awareness even further. So I got this whole weekend was devoted to tryouts, man. It's like it's at that time frame where it's like, okay, you need to try out like basketball to baseball to soccer to this to that. So I had like 2 different tryouts like going on at the same time all day, and it's like I'm trying to like work, with my kids and like trying to get them all prepped and like grounders and hitting and this, and I'm just like, oh my god, I have to literally explain like every step of the process of the skill of it, and I was like, oh man, I just like it's interesting to me.
It's
to
good
see.
bonding time though, isn't it?
Oh, it's great.
Isn't it great?
It's great, and you see it pay off. Like when something clicks and you see them respond to it, and like you actually see that, once they go to hit a ball or whatever. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Plus, studies will show that if a kid is obese or overweight through their teens, the odds that they'll remain obese are like insane as an adult. It's like very high odds. And I think the same is true if a teen exercises and creates some of these habits with fitness and stuff, the odds that they'll be fit and healthy as an adult are much higher. So it's just, they're formidable years. And especially with weight training, because I agree with sports. I think sports is probably the best way to do it, especially with younger kids. But weight training, don't write that off. If you got a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid.
Oh, yeah. Puberty's perfect.
Do it right.
Yeah.
Do it right. Have them do good form and all that stuff and good control. But man, have them lift weights, because the thing I like about weights is it's so flexible. I can do whatever the fuck I want with them, and I can do all kinds of different movements and individualize it for the kid. I think it's a great form of
and the
activity.
sled's a perfect way to ramp up load without adding all that excess stress before the mechanics are really there.
I'm so glad I bought that sled. That was because you recommended it, and I think because teaching my son how to squat is going to take me a while.
Yeah.
But pushing a sled, much more natural, much more, much easier to get in, and I can ramp the load up with that. Whereas with the squat, it's going to take me a while before we can do any kind of load, anything like that. Anyway, there was an article. Did you guys see the article that Enzo shared about YouTube and what they're starting to do?
I saw it, but I didn't read it. What's it about?
So great article, and it's just a sign of the times. So YouTube is going to start. So the way it works when you're on, we learned this. If you want your videos to get a lot of traction, one of the most important factors is if YouTube recommends your video under other videos, right? So if there's a fitness channel and they're posting, exercise tips, and that fitness channel gets millions of views, and then YouTube decides that our content, because we're a fitness channel, is a great recommendation for people looking at that one, we are just automatically going to have a lot of views because YouTube is recommending us.
There's a lot of stipulations that come with that, though.
What do you mean?
Well, in order for YouTube, the algorithm for YouTube to do that, you have to do a really good job of the SEO part.
Oh, okay.
So, just because you're
sure, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yes, yeah, that which is Enzo's job. This is to learn that and to get better at that and get better at that. But it's a good point, I think, to make, because I see a lot of people that are, trying to launch a YouTube channel or aspiring to be a YouTuber, right? That's a thing now, and they just start putting content out, and they think that that's gonna you're gonna grow. Like, it's really, really tough to grow a channel that way, and YouTube is wanting you to put the same kind of detail that like a blogger would put into writing a blog article into your visual YouTube. So, when you look at a good YouTube video, and you could use some of ours as an example, like some of the recent ones, especially, and you hit the drop down little triangle thing, and you can see the notes in there. That's really in order for you to get recommended on another page, like that stuff.
That's an important factor.
Yes.
So that's a big factor, right? If you get recommended, the odds of having a lot of views are very high, or much higher. Well, what YouTube is doing now is they're going to start to really regulate what they consider to be borderline content. So if they think your conspiracy theory, if they think you're promoting things that they don't like, they're going to stop recommending your videos to other people. So, and this is interesting because, and a lot of people are getting upset with this because YouTube now is wielding so much power with information. I mean, they're the second highest search engine that there is, right? Besides Google, and what in essence YouTube could really shift what people are watching and learning. So now they're like, hey, listen, if we can, I think people have a problem with this because it's a little bit vague. You know what I mean? So it's kind of up to their discretion.
Right.
But it's interesting. It's a sign of the times.
I'm glad you brought this up. This has actually been on my mind. Yesterday, yesterday or the day before, yesterday I think it was, Vegan Gains got pulled off. And I don't know if you guys know who that is. We've mentioned him on this show before.
He's the guy that likes to talk shit about carnivore diet and people who eat meat and
right.
He's super aggressive.
Well, he's just one of those nerdy kids that sits behind a computer all day and reads articles and is really book smart. And he puts out some decent content, but he does it in a way I think that is unattractive for a lot of people. Like just the way he does it and the way he attacks a lot of people. So I've never been a fan of his channel, and I don't care for him.
But they totally pulled him.
They pulled him completely off.
And he had a decent sized channel, didn't he?
Very huge. He had a huge channel. I mean,
was it a recent video he did, or was it like past ones?
No, it was past. In fact, he uploaded a video today in response to getting pulled out. Now, he uploaded it on another channel. I don't know whose channel he used to upload it, but there's a video of him talking about how YouTube decides if you get pulled off. And they have this kind of flagging thing. It's like 3 strikes and you're out. So they do give warnings for if you're breaking, their violence. But he goes into it's a good video for someone who's trying to figure out how that all works. I think he goes into really good detail of how they decide, and he is making a case that it's just not fair. It's not fair because he's got a video 4 years old that someone decided to flag, 2 weeks ago for the content.
And you know what? Here's why that's a good point that he's making. Especially today, what is considered abrasive changes so fast.
Yeah.
That 10 years ago, if you could say a word or you could call someone something, nobody cares. 10 years later, all of a sudden it's a trigger word and it's super offensive. And will they then go back? I mean, are they going to consider things in context?
Well, so
you see what I'm saying?
Here's why I'm glad you brought this up, because I've been wrestling with this personally on how do I feel about YouTube having this power and can pull people off, and is it fair? Is it not fair? We have a business that's around content like this. And my initial feelings were, it's bullshit and it's not fair, and it's a scary thought that this company can have all this control and potentially kind of direct whatever narrative that they want. And so I was kind of anti it, but then now I'm on the other side of that right now, or maybe leaning more towards the other side. And now I'm thinking, okay, well, first of all, it's in YouTube's best interest to have people like this guy on there. That he's getting millions of views, he's driving traffic to their platform. They don't want to kick this guy off. I mean, they're not going to kick people off that have massive followings just for a narrative. They want that traction, and that would be terrible business for them to force a guy like that who's got potentially hundreds of thousands of people that he could go take to another platform.
Yeah, but maybe they're looking at the long game, and they're trying to be mainstream.
Or maybe not. Or maybe they're a privately owned company, okay, or a company that has the power. It's a privilege for us to be on their platform.
Of course.
And so I've tried to think of it like, what if YouTube was my platform? What if I owned it and I was the brilliant mind that created it, and it blew? It started one day in my basement as just an idea, and then it blew into this #1 search engine that everybody is using, and it's generating millions and millions of dollars for hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. And it's now gotten to the point where it's getting almost out of control, and there's racist stuff on there, and there's a lot of really bad stuff, and it's mine. This is mine. I own it. What do I do about it? And would I create standards that align with me and what I think is right or wrong? And
which is okay. So that brings me to where I think the inconsistencies are, that they don't want to clearly define it so people can know what those parameters are.
That's the problem.
It's not clear, and so they keep pulling people, and what their definitions are change constantly.
Dude, look. Well, I can find videos on YouTube right now with ISIS and crazy shit, people saying stuff, and they're still up. Now, here's the thing. I'm with you, Adam. They're an organization. You're on there voluntarily. They can kick whoever the fuck they want off.
Right.
I don't think there should be any laws against it, for sure. They have every single right to have whoever they want on their channel and whoever they don't want off their channel. That's totally within their right. And we have every right to say it's fair or not fair and go somewhere else or take our customers. Look what happened to Patreon with Jordan Peterson, Rubin,
right.
Sam Harris,
right.
And some other big guys. They left because of the vagueness of their new policy. And this is kind of vague. What YouTube is saying is kind of vague. Like, what is considered conspiracy?
Yeah, but here's the thing too. Like it's still all in all in its infancy. I mean, just 10 years ago, nobody was posting ISIS stuff. There wasn't any crazy
I don't
stuff.
even think there was YouTube, was it?
Right. That's my point.
Yeah.
Is that this is all kind of happening so fast right now, and if you're a company like them and you want to be very careful and laying the law down. You can't say this, you can't say that, being very specific. And so you put out general vague rules, and then you try and do your best to police it as you can. Now, remember, too, that like when you make a comment of like, there's ISIS videos out there, but then there's like a, what's his face who does the conspiracies who got pulled off, right? How's he getting pulled off? But then there's somebody who's murdering or doing something. Well, it's an algorithm that they're building. It's a bot that's picking this up. It's not like a little guy in a room who's like watching all these videos.
Well,
it's impossible.
Yeah, but
so they're creating an algorithm to pick up certain things.
Not quite. Yes, it's true.
It's both, but yeah,
it is both, because then people will write in and say, "Hey, what's going on? No, we're not going to put you on. Hey, what about these channels? We're not going to care about those." It's just vague. I don't think they're doing it, bro, because they're trying their best. You want to know why they're vague? To protect themselves.
That's
because,
what it is.
Yes, because if they're specific and you don't break those specific rules, then they can sue you.
They can sue back, yeah.
Well,
so they want to keep it somewhat.
And that's okay. There's nothing
so
wrong with
wouldn't
that.
I would too. If it's
Yeah.
my company, I care about myself first if it's my company.
That's
If
perfectly
it's my
fine.
company, I'm going to protect me and my organization first that I fucking built from the ground up. So I am going to put vague things out there so that you can't turn around and sue me because I pull you off.
Look,
might be a very smart strategy when you think about it.
Look, let me tell you something, okay? It would have been conspiracy theory not that long ago to say that the U.S. government was injecting, black prisoners with syphilis. It would have been conspiracy theory to say that we were experimenting on people with LSD. It would have been a conspiracy theory to say that the Gulf and Tonkin incident that is widely believed to have started or pushed us into the Vietnam War was manufactured and actually not quite true. All of these things would have been conspiracy theory. So that's why people have a problem with the vagueness, because who determines what's a conspiracy theory? And what's conspiracy theory today many times turns out to be, not always, obviously, most of the time it's not, but many times it comes out true.
And to the counter to that too, though, I see it within like my circle of friends that get misinformation from YouTube like constantly because of how like the depth a lot of these people go to sway, with manipulation, with the way the theatrical, way that they display this information, like it solidifies in people. Like people do believe there's a flat Earth.
Here's the thing, though. We live in such a litigious world right now that if I had, and let's take it away from YouTube and just think of like a gym. Like we're so comfortable and used to. We've been around our whole lives, and we built the Mind Pump gym, and it's 100,000 square feet. It's massive. We got tens of thousands of people coming through it, and we live in this time we live in right now, and we got a lot of shit that's going on in it that we don't fucking like. But we're all very smart men. We sit down and we go, listen, we can't necessarily say that we can't be very specific on what you have to wear or what you can't wear, but we also don't want it to be okay for someone to come in here and their dick be hanging around and flopping around. Like we want to be able to tell that person that's not appropriate. So how the fuck do we put that in legal terms to cover our ass so we have the authority, because it's our fucking business, to throw their ass out on the street? But then at the same time, too, we got to be very careful not to ostracize some people. So that's a very tough place to be, and you have to understand that that's where YouTube is at.
I agree with you to a large extent. I think it's all well within their rights, but I think the criticisms are I think there's a lot of justifications in the criticism. I don't think there should be any.
I agree. I don't disagree with you there. I think that the criticisms are fine and fair, and I think that's all part of the process. Just like, again, going back to the analogy, if this was our business and we first draw up this outline of what our expectations or what we want to protect ourselves and to be able to throw people.
I'll give you a conspiracy theory. Okay, here's my conspiracy theory.
Why do you keep going to the conspiracy theory? Because that's not really the main thing that they go after. They're going after more like racist, violent.
No. That's been
they're eliminating.
They've said that forever. You couldn't put racist and violent and porn on there for a long time. The new guidelines are talking about borderline content and they said, I believe conspiracy is part of there. But so here's my conspiracy theory. Okay, we didn't hear any of this shit until the last election. The last election, a lot of people got pissed off and said one of the reasons why Trump got elected was because of, quote unquote, the social media platforms and fake news circulating that got him elected. I personally think that there's been a lot of pressure on these platforms for a while, and not just because of the last election, but before that, but this last election really pushed it forward, for them to fucking be careful what they do, because if you're not, then some shit's going to happen to you guys in the future.
It'd be interesting. Watch what happens in the next election and how monitored like Instagram's going to be, YouTube's going to be, Facebook's going to be. I guarantee anybody starts like putting stuff out there, like they're going to pull them off the platform.
It's weird. It's weird that this is all happening now, although this could be just a part of the evolution of all of it. I mean, look, here's the bottom line, and this is the truth here. If you have these huge platforms like YouTube, let's say YouTube tomorrow says, that's it, no more conspiracy videos on flat earth. Okay, we're not going to allow those anymore on our channel. Do you know what will happen to the movement behind the flat earth movement? You know what will happen with that whole conspiracy?
It'll grow.
It'll fucking grow. It's funny because when you're dealing with conspiracy theories, the more they get acknowledged and more pushback, the stronger they get.
Right. That's the thing. It's like you're feeding it fuel, because now that's damaging. Why is that damaging? What do you have to hide? That's like what the conspiracy theorists think. It has more value because they don't want it.
It's going to be funny. It's going to be funny.
So, I mean, what is the answer? Is the answer to completely let everything be on there and be okay with it?
No, they got to do what's best for their business.
Right.
Yeah. That's what they got to do.
And that's how I feel. Yeah. So that's where my stance is on it. They're
going mainstream,
It's not
bro.
clear cut, dude.
Look, they're going mainstream. Look at YouTube's audience has changed dramatically over the last few years. It used to be a bunch of men, teen men to 30s. Now you have kids on the kids channels are getting tens of millions and hundreds of millions of views. You have it's mainstream,
and that's where I'm like, I am rallying to regulate, because you get a kid on there who's watching some kid channel and like getting kid stuff and advertisement, whatever, and then you get some fucking creep in a costume.
I've seen those
jerking off or whatever. It just like goes down this crazy road of like, what? How did so they have to be adamant about like people like that and like underlying tones of pedophilia and all these types of things.
The market will dictate it.
Didn't one of you bring up an article of another platform or an option like for that was safer to protect kids that are watching it?
It's like kids YouTube?
They're trying to create one, yeah.
No, I think they have it.
Oh, the kids version, yeah.
Yeah, because my daughter, that's what I let her watch. I let her watch the kids version, so it's kind of regulated for kids or whatever.
There was a kid advertising platform that they're trying to create.
Did you see what Taylor posted, I think, yesterday in his story about ad spend being shifted over into children? And you see that even with large companies, I think it was a Louis Vuitton, advertisement towards young, towards kids, towards babies.
It's an interesting the way the market's changing. Who was it? The Huffington Post and a bunch of other news organizations laid off like 1,000 journalists the other day because the way that money is being spent, like Facebook and these other social media platforms, they're the ones getting the ad spends, and all these other companies, they're not able to. And you know what's going to happen? Mark my words. You're going to see more and more crazy and fake kind of news being put out by these organizations because they're fighting now for more clicks. They're fighting for more views. Mm-hmm. So it's going to get much more polarizing before they die. Yeah. It's like it's like they're dying. It's like their last breath to try and stay alive.
It is. It's gross.
Yeah.
Well, a little shift. I mean, since we're talking like crazy talk,
going all fired up.
Right. This I read this article. Someone shared it with me in my DM the other day. I love when people share cool stuff like this. And it was scientists develop a telescopic contact lens that can zoom 3 times.
A what?
This is the Black Mirror episode.
Bro, listen to this, okay?
It's a contact lens?
That can go up 3x further.
Weird.
And how do you operate it?
I don't know how it operates yet. So listen, it's still in its
My contact lenses are stuck, and 3 times I can't.
So this
Extreme close-up.
This is straight from the article. I'll have Jackie link it for those that want to read the full article. But over the past year, we've heard about some pretty interesting developments in the world of contact lenses. Scientists have made progress on creating a pair of smart lenses for diabetics that are capable of monitoring glucose levels. And Google is even inventing a set with an inbuilt camera. Like in Black Mirror, right? And now researchers over in Switzerland are working on the magnifying 3x, so it goes 3x and sees like.
Of course, we'd have a camera in our eye. You know, that's like a natural fit.
Dude, this just keeps going more and more in line with what Elon Musk said. What you and I stayed up till fucking 2 a.m. talking about.
We were freaking out.
Oh yeah, I gave Justin some of my weed, dude. You know what I'm saying?
It was good. It was good. I was like, my brain was on fire. I was like figuring everything out.
Is this the night with the hotel?
We went to Mark Bell's
when you had the people staying up next door banging on the wall.
So they're having a domestic dispute like right behind me.
So a little funny story. We don't normally share this type of stuff, but typically when we go places, I make sure we stay somewhere really nice. Like I just, I
appreciate even more so now that you do that,
right?
Just so you know.
So
we save money.
So yeah,
this would be Sal's.
So Sal's been in my ear a lot lately, you know, and there's some things that we changed this past year to kind of save the company some money. And we're at, you know, at the beginning we're just like, you know, balls to the wall. It's all about growing this and that. And then when we travel, we want to travel nice. And you know, now we're looking at all these areas where we can probably, you know, cut back a tiny bit and be smarter about stuff. Well, we're going to Mark Bell's to go do a podcast at his place in West Sacramento. And instead of fighting traffic, because we're only a few hours away from there, we said, okay, let's go up there the night before. And because we're not shooting any content, we're not doing anything, let's just stay cheap. So we tell Brianna, like, you know, just find us a place, you know, number one priority as close as possible to Mark's gym, and then second, you know, put us in a decent place. So we stay at an extended stay, which typically are nice, but West Sacramento,
born and raised.
Wow. I mean, the place the room that Justin and I had, literally. I mean, the ceiling walls. It
was like
bathroom,
an ashtray.
Yeah,
like we were sleeping in an ashtray.
We're stained from cigarette smoke. And it was like I could feel myself breathing it in the entire night. And then 2 o'clock in the morning, this couple, it sounded like a family was actually in there. Like a whole family was fighting and like slamming each other against the wall and slamming doors and yelling. And that went on for a good 45 minutes.
You said
so.
you thought you started seeing bullets flying.
Yeah, no, they were getting so loud and it was getting banging shit over there. Like I was afraid bullets were going to come through the wall soon. So, but anyways, that night. You know, I made Justin smoke some of my weed, and we started talking, and we went down this rabbit hole on what Elon Musk said in Joe Rogan's. Since he had that interview with Joe Rogan, the one thing that just like stuck with me more than anything else that he said was, you know, how we are already starting to
morph. It's an extension of our brain. It's already an appendage.
Right, exactly. Our phone is already becoming our appendage, and he's so right. It's so obvious if you've just looked at humans the last 5 years on how much you have your phone in your hand, to the point where it is fucking normal. It is very normal now to walk down the street and see somebody selfieing themselves or talking to the phone while they're walking down the street. That is normal now.
Just looking at Facebook, walking through the intersection.
And so he makes this argument that we are already becoming this, you know,
half machine, half human.
Yeah, and the next step for AI, because everybody's so scared of AI creating itself and then killing us. He's like, no. He's like, we're just going to integrate with it, and it's going to
be non-invasive for a while. Like look how we all adopted the phone, and it just happened, and it was a subtle process, and we're like, no, this is part of our thing now, And it's just that's how things work. Like it's not a fast process of like, oh, and now I got a chip in my head, like it just doesn't like go right to that.
No,
like,
it'll be,
work its
and then
way
it'll
there.
be like, oh, look, you wear contact lenses anyways.
Yes.
How nice would it be that your contact lens could snap a picture and zoom 3 times? Well, fuck, I'm already putting them
it's
in my eyes
just a contact
anyways.
lens. It's not that different.
You'll never. I mean, think of all the arguments.
That's how it happens.
Think of all the arguments you'll win. You'll be like, oh, are you sure I said that? Okay, let's replay the video. Yeah. Oh, nope. Looks like I didn't. Sorry.
I mean, just think like, and his point of
Although
that.
women will probably win most arguments at that point.
We now
I told you shit.
We are now in a time. I mean, which again, and I know we use the word fascinating all the time, but it is fascinating to me. It's just where you and I could be having this argument about something, and instantly it's solved by a Google search. I mean, we could be debating. No, it's not that way. Yes, it is that way. And then you can pull up studies to prove your point instantly. How crazy is that going to be when you just eliminate the step?
We have no idea what that will mean. Literally,
I know all of it.
We have no idea what that'll mean because never in human history
It's going to evolve humans faster than anything else.
But we don't know
ever
what
have.
that'll mean.
I know, right?
You know what I'm saying? We don't know if that's going to be a great thing or if that's going to be a bad thing.
I see, and I'm not afraid of it. I feel like it will be a good thing.
I don't think you should be afraid of it because it doesn't matter if you're afraid of it. It's going to happen. So you're better off not being afraid.
Right.
But who knows what that's going to mean?
Don't you feel like... And it's not to say that all intelligent people don't have stupid arguments or do stupid things. That's not my point. But I feel like the more intelligent you become, the less likely you are to do outlandish, violent, argumentative type of things where it's just like you're much more. I mean, you could even Google search that right now, like how to win an argument. If you're trying to win an argument, you're struggling all the time. You can't figure why you can't. Well, that's because you haven't fucking looked it up, and read about it, and you'll find out that your approach is all wrong.
I agree with you to a point, but the one thing that will not be able to provide you with is wisdom, and that's where
that's fair.
And that's where I'm like, we don't know, like
the unearned knowledge.
You're going to have a bunch of people who are normally idiots, because let's be honest, there's a lot of idiots out there. A bunch of people who have all the knowledge and none of the wisdom. Mm-hmm. What is that going to mean? I don't know. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but who knows, right? Because wisdom comes from experience.
It'll balance itself out. There'll be a wave of. I mean, it's
I don't know. Who knows? If
it's like a debate that I get in with a young trainer. You're your first year, 2 years into training. You've read all the books. You've Googled all the Googling. You've followed all the best YouTubers. So you have a plethora of knowledge in your brain, but you haven't put the years in and the mistakes in that I have for 15 to 20 years. And so we still have these debates and arguments. I think it's healthy, though.
What's interesting to me is, like, so you already see YouTube being a valuable source for, like, if I want to know how to do something, like I want to know how to, like, change, the oil in my truck or whatever it is, like there's a video I can watch. And then I was thinking, like, well, if I want to know all the nuances of like how to hold my handle, like VR is going to take that even further of like how to learn skills, but now I'm going to actually do them by watching somebody like go through that.
Well, here's a good example. So I was watching a documentary on Prime, and I highly recommend this to anybody if you're into this kind of stuff, because it gets a little weird, but it's also gets into some cool science. The title of the documentary is called Inner World, Outer World. And they talk a lot about the crossing between science, spirituality, philosophy. And when you listen to the wisdom that some of these ancient mystics used to talk about, you can see how a lot of what they said it's just true. It just lasts forever. And they didn't have science. They didn't have microscopes and telescopes and stuff like that. But what they said was no less true than learning that, an atom looks the way it does today because we can see it. And one thing that they were talking about was the wisdom that some of these mystics would get through decades and decades and decades of quiet, peaceful self-reflection and meditation, where you quiet the consciousness and are able to observe yourself, and you have these amazing breakthroughs. Now compare that to some kid who goes to Coachella and drops a bunch of acid and is like, oh my God, I know all this stuff. Do you? Yeah. Do you really know the same stuff as the person who reached that point through decades of meditation? You could take some ayahuasca or take some LSD and maybe see and get a glimpse of the same things that the guy who sat on the mountain who's for 30 years did, and you can see it for a second, but is it the same? And so that's the thing. We just don't know. We're going to have all this fucking information accessible to us. You're going to have everybody who's going to know everything, which is in many ways awesome. But without the wisdom, look at it this way, okay? You take the average person and you take the average 20-year-old boy and you give him access to all the women he wants. He lacks the wisdom to realize that it's probably not going to be good to just sleep with a bunch of women. He's not going to learn that until later on. You give someone all the money in the world. They've got all the money, but they lack the wisdom that comes with earning it and what you do with it, and the wisdom that comes with the fact that money doesn't bring happiness. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so this is where it's going to be interesting when people become gods, literally through knowledge, when they have all the knowledge in the world at their fingertips at a thought.
Well,
who knows what that'll mean?
Isn't that a Dalai Lama or Buddhist quote? The unearned knowledge, beware of unearned. What isn't that? I
don't know who said that.
Yeah, there's a famous quote that's been said about that.
Beware of unearned wisdom.
Yeah, that's
something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines. I 100% agree with you, but I also think that all in all, I think it's going to benefit us. Like I think it's only going to be better that people are smarter and have. I mean, we're in the process of it right now. I think that we talk about it on social media.
Carl Jung.
Is that who said it?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
I should have known that. I just started reading his book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's the actual quote? Since I massacred it.
Beware of unearned wisdom.
Oh okay.
Yeah. And he was literally talking about psychedelics.
Really?
He was literally referring to psychedelics when he made that quote.
Yeah.
Because I think it's totally true. Like I could write down everything I know about exercise and fitness, but it's different. Wisdom is different than knowledge, and it's hard for me to sit here and quantify. But I think that's the best example I could give is the person who sits under the tree for 30 years and meditates versus the person who takes a bunch of psychedelics.
I always feel the more you know, it just like presents a whole host of new potential problems or things that like look very daunting because of you just like leaped into this new pool that you are, you've never been before. And so it's like presents a whole new array of options. And so it's like, I don't know, we might get to a point where like we start thinking more about the universe and it freaks us out.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of spiritual leaders have said, peace comes not from acquiring things, but from detaching from things. So it's like the more you have, the more you become attached, the worse you feel. The less you have, and the less you become attached to things, then you become you come to at peace.
I believe that. I believe that. I mean, I even see it now with like simple practices of just getting rid of my phone and computer for an entire day, like how much better I feel. I don't know. I think it's a popular thing. You guys didn't watch the YouTube video or the little clip that I put on my story, huh? You should watch it. I think it's really,
the anxiety and depression one?
Yeah, I mean, that was the hook I used to get people to watch it, right? I was just, do you battle with anxiety? Do you battle with depression? Or do you have kids? And it was just talking about, how important it is that we be careful on, letting these kids get attached to these tools like an iPad, an iPhone, and how important it is as a parent that you intervene early on because of how the brain will form years down the road.
I got it. It's coming to me now. How you gain knowledge is where the wisdom comes from. And so if the knowledge is just given to you, you lose a lot of that wisdom. So a great example, this is an easy one for us to understand because we're in fitness. If you had create this technological machine that you could walk inside, and as soon as you walk out, you're muscular, fit, lean, and healthy, that person, although they would have all the physical effects of years and years of training and good relationship to exercise and the relationship to nutrition and all these practices, they would be fit, lean, and all that stuff. They would completely lack all of the wisdom that comes from getting to that place that, I now understand a lot of because I've been doing it for 20 years. So, and I've talked about this before, like if they ever develop a pharmaceutical pill that just gets people fit, that's not going to give them everything that they want. They think it will. It'll solve some problems for sure, but it's not going to solve a lot of the problems, you know what I mean? Or most of the problems.
Agreed.
This Quaz brought to you by Organifi.
For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's ORGANIFI.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout.
First question is from Spet13. Best advice to break food addiction?
All right, before we answer this, we've been meaning to remind everybody, if you leave a question on the quad, or you don't leave one, but you read the questions on there, we're going to try and make sure that we address the ones that are most liked, right, that most people want to hear. So we tend to lean towards those ones that have 7, 10 plus likes or whatever. So if you're not somebody who has put a question on there, but you're reading and you see a question that you want,
just like it.
Yeah,
well,
like
we
it.
just pick it because of what we think we can go off of and run with. But like, if you have a question on there, you're like, oh, I wish the guys would have addressed this one. Well, this is where we're going to start paying attention. You know, if you go in there and like it, we're going to like look at it.
All right. So let's get into how to break food addiction. It's really the approach is the same approach on how to break any kind of an addiction. At the moment, Jessica and I are listening to this book that talks specifically about addiction and how to break addiction. And one of the things, and we're only in the first chapter, but there's already been good information. I can't remember the name of it. I apologize. I'll try to post it on my story by the time this airs so people can see, what I'm talking about. But in the beginning of the book, the author talks about how we reinforce behaviors by continuing to scratch an itch. So what does that mean? Well, if let's say every time you feel a craving, you reinforce it by feeding yourself with that food that seems to get rid of the craving, you're only strengthening that cycle. And so then this part sucks. This part really sucks. And I think the reason why people ask this question is because they don't want to go through the hard part. But the reality is, to break any kind of a psychological addiction, and especially a physiological addiction, you have to go through a process that you're not going to like. You're going to have to go through a process of wanting and craving and dealing with the wanting and craving. I think the fear of the feeling of the craving, the fear of the wanting, is what makes it so difficult. Like, if you're so scared of being hungry and craving that you absolutely have to feed yourself, you're never going to get through that process of breaking that addiction. So you have to be comfortable. You have to become comfortable with that, with the fact that you're going to feel shitty. Just like, like I said, when I stopped caffeine recently, I was fully aware and prepared to deal with the withdrawal symptoms, which were slightly depressed, low energy, crappy workouts, not going to feel as sharp, and the fact that I'm going to want and crave a stimulant. And so understanding that and accepting that, as I went through the process of withdrawal, I feel like shit, and I'm okay with it, and I'm dealing with it, and that's it. And you have to go through that process, because the way you break an addiction is through not reinforcing it enough times to where it loses its grip over you. You have to have it lose its grip over you. So
I'm going to refer to the podcast episode that we did with Dr. Andrew Hill. Is that right?
yeah.
Was it Andrew Hill? Yeah, I was trying to think of that too. I knew we watched a TED Talk and then we got somebody on that.
Yeah, it was Dr. Andrew Hill, and I think conversation was really geared around.
Right, it was Andrew
around this topic. And I actually am really fascinated with their approach to helping somebody with alcoholism or any sort of drug addiction. And I think that the way they do it, I think it applies to any sort of addiction. And I think it's kind of groundbreaking too. It's different. I mean, the old way of kind of handling addiction is this, like, you cut cold turkey and then you go through this 12-step process, kind of like what AA has done forever. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because what ends up happening, and I've seen this, I've got several friends that are recovering alcoholics or drug addicts, and what I've seen is they know that they had to cut that off because it was ruining their life or whatever. or their family had an intervention and said no more, and they've realized that it just cannot be in their life at all, and so they've learned to cut that cold turkey. But then what I noticed is that they just feed that addiction to, or something else gets fed, or they go consume something else, whether it be sex or gambling or other forms of addiction they end up seeking besides that one, because they just went cold turkey and they really didn't solve the root cause. And I think the way Andrew Hill talks about it, and the way they, instead of telling somebody, no, you can't do this anymore, just like food, right? You're saying, no, you can't ever have that, is actually stopping for a moment and being like, what makes you want this right now? Are you really hungry right now? Or is it because you sat down in front of your television right now and you don't realize that?
It's an interesting thought, because you're going to be faced with it again constantly. So you go cold turkey, you eliminate it. Well, it's always still going to be there, and it's going to be in front of you. So you are going to have to keep addressing it. So like to build a new relationship towards it is, something that is definitely like a high priority of like how to organize your thoughts around it going forward.
Yeah, it's not just a willpower thing, although willpower in the beginning is part of it, because the willpower, you're going to need some of that to stop yourself from getting, from curing that craving or whatever, or from medicating that craving. But what you guys are saying is the other part of it. You have to deal with the feelings that come up from the fact that you're not medicating yourself. You have to actually deal with them in a way that allows you to have long-term success. So if you're the kind of person that, here's a good example. Let's say you smoke cigarettes. You get into smoking cigarettes. You start to enjoy them. And then you learn to smoke a cigarette when you're stressed out. What ends up happening is you create this pathway. By the way, the book is called The Craving Mind, I think, or The Craving Mind. That's the name of the book. Really, really good book. What ends up happening is now you're stressed out, you smoke a cigarette, now you've associated the relief of stress with something that you're doing, this being the cigarette, and on top of it, you're throwing on something that is physiologically causes an effect, which is the nicotine. So now you're connecting all those things, and it becomes very difficult to stop. So to stop the process, you get stressed out, I'm not going to smoke. Okay, but we got to still deal with the stress. We have to deal with it in a way where you now have a tool to deal with that stress that is going to replace the cigarette. And what Adam is saying is totally true. Somebody may switch out their cigarettes for food, or switch out their cigarette for another drug. Mm-hmm. What you need to do is find a replacement that is something that is at least better than the cigarette, because you can actually move away from addiction on a step-by-step process. So another example is I've gotten people to quit smoking cigarettes through exercise. So what they'll do is, oh my God, when I'm stressed out, I have to smoke a cigarette. And I tell them, well, go work out instead. Now, that's not the end of it, right? Because then what ends up happening is now they become addicted to exercise. No, it's a better addiction than cigarettes, but now we got to move away from being addicted to exercise as well. You need to be able to deal with this in a way that's going to give you long-term success. So when you cut these foods out of your system, you're going to go through withdrawal. It's going to suck. Try to figure out ways to deal with how you're feeling that are better for you than eating these types of foods. And not only, by the way, with food, there's physiological addiction that happens as well. Like I know for me, when I'm eating hyper palatable foods all the time, let's say I go on a trip, and that's when I tend to do it if I go on a vacation or something. When I stop eating those foods, normal foods taste bland, and I have a craving for hyper palatable food. I want more potato chips. I want more cookies. I want more, burgers and fries and that kind of stuff. And I got to give myself it takes usually about a week for me to get it out of my system and for me to be okay with not eating them. And I know I have to deal with that. So, Adam, you went through getting off of opiate pills.
Yeah.
What's that? Because that's a tough one.
Well,
everybody says how hard that one is.
It's the hardest thing I've ever dealt with for sure. And how I think I handled it. See, I didn't reach out to anybody. I did it all on my own. And originally, when I first realized that I was even addicted, because I didn't even know that I was. So I think that's step one, right? Is to actually
acknowledge it.
Yeah, acknowledge that you are. I mean, I think a lot of people don't think they have a food addiction. I think people are blindly feeding themselves and don't realize. So I think step one is acknowledging that you have a food addiction. And a good way to acknowledge that is prepare your meals, have good balanced, healthy meals in your refrigerator. And when you have that, oh, I really want a cheeseburger and fries, I'm hungry feeling, which you would say, or what, and you have food prepared and you still won't go make that choice to go feed yourself with what you know is best for your body, and instead you still pick up the phone and order or go through the drive-thru and do that, that's a good sign that you have an addiction there and you're not just hungry and you're just feeding that. So there's the first step, is acknowledging that you have an addiction there. And then I believe that there's going to be a large variance between people on how they handle this best. And for me, when I went through the opiate thing, it was like, okay, initially I remember, I just didn't have them one night. I went through all this like shakes and sweats and like I thought I had the flu. And then I started researching online and realizing, oh, fuck, my body has become dependent on this chemical that I've been taking for the last, whatever it was, 3 or 4 months consistently after my surgery.
Now, at that point, could you see how alluring it is for some people to lie to themselves and be like, I don't think I have a problem? Oh,
especially for someone like me. So like, and I haven't told this story in a long time, so I'll be brief just to catch everybody up that doesn't know this, but I tore my ACL, MCL. I went to the doctor. I got prescribed Norco, so you're really strong Vicodin or hydrocodone. And when I first started taking it, I would take it when I felt the pain. And so I would wait and be, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. Then I would take the pill. And I remember coming back to the doctor and I said, these aren't strong enough. Like I'm in pain, and then I take it and I don't feel like it really alleviates the pain. And they're like, oh, well, how often are you taking them? I said, well, it says to take them every 4 hours, right? 4 to 6 hours is what it says on the bottle. And I said, so I kind of go by that, somewhere around there. I wait, and they're like, oh, okay, well, stay ahead of the pain. Like before you feel the pain coming on, then take it a little earlier. So basically just gave me the green light to take these more frequently. And she was right. I took them more frequently and I was pretty much high all day long. And so then I wasn't in as much pain, and it was very numbing and felt good, and it didn't bother me. Well, I went from, I think I came out the gates taking like 3 of those in a day or so, and 3 became 7 to 9 really quick. And then it became 7 to 9 very consistently for months. And then it was like, okay, I'm back to training. I'm rehabbing. I'm not in a lot of pain. I think I had just finished my last refill of a bottle, and I was up to taking 7 to 9 every single day. And I just stopped. I didn't know. I actually at that point was like completely naive to opiate addiction. And because I'm somebody who had a surgery and didn't ever battle with drug addiction, I don't think this is me. So it doesn't even cross my mind. I don't take anything. The very next night, I'm in fucking cold sweats and shivering and shaking. And first thing I think of, I don't think drugs. I think, oh, I have the flu. So I'm miserable. I go in the next day and I'm just feeling awful. And I remember that I had a restless night that night. I didn't sleep hardly anything, and I'm feeling like I got the flu. And I remembered I still had like one more Vicodin or something laying around, and I took it, and the symptoms like went instantly away. It took about 30 minutes for it to hit my system, and I didn't just go from like feeling like the worst flu I've ever had to feeling better. I went from like feeling the flu to like feeling great,
like just normal, back to normal.
Yes, and I went, whoa. And like right away, I was in my office and started like Google searching, opiate addiction, Vicodin addiction, and symptoms, and then all of a sudden, and everything that I had just experienced starts lighting up. So then I realized, like, whoa, my body has become dependent on this, and I didn't realize it. So that I think is so important, and I think that we see this with food. Like people just don't stop to think that maybe you're addicted to it, and you don't realize it.
Now, did you scale down, or did you go cold turkey at that point?
The obviously not taking any that night or two is my example of cold turkey, right? Because I didn't take any the next 2 days. And then I realized that wasn't going to be possible. So then I think I went from 7 to 9 down to like 5 to 6, and from 5 to 6 down to 3 to 5, and then from 3 to 5 down to 1 to 3, and then skip every other day I would have one, and then eventually.
I think that's in my experience, I'm not an addiction expert at all, but in my experience working with clients with food issues, that is the most effective. I have yet to work with a client where they come to me and they're eating terribly, and I give them a diet and say, don't eat these foods anymore, and then they're cured and they just eat great all the time. I've never had success doing that. The only success I've ever had has been, okay, let's reduce your soda consumption to half. Okay, let's let's eliminate candy, 3 days a week. Okay, let's have you eat vegetables on these days. It's a slow process. And then my own experience with things like caffeine, I went from, 1 cup of coffee a day to every other day, half of it being decaf, to every day, half of it being decaf, to, every other day, all of it being decaf. It's a slow scaling process. In my experience, that's been the most effective way.
I mean, I do this. I openly discuss my love for Diet Cokes, and I do this the same way with that. I don't demonize it. I don't say I can't have it. I'm aware of the research on it. It's probably not a good idea for it to be something consistent in my life. So I kind of weave in and out of this thing where I allow myself to and then not to. And the way I kind of pay attention to it is I can see myself becoming addicted. It turns into like a once in a great while, we're all out somewhere and it just sounds great because we decided to stop and have a burger, and I haven't had a burger at this place and I want to have a Coke with it, and so I have one. It goes from that to, now I'm actually picking it up at the grocery store, and I always typically buy the little they make
small cans.
Yeah, they make these little mini cans. And that, on a lot of ice, that kind of satisfies the craving. And so, one of those things will last me probably a month. And then it goes to where I'm starting to have them, every other day, to then every day. And then eventually I'm having a full Coke and a full Diet Coke. And when I catch myself doing that back-to-back days or stringing multiple days in a row, I now know I'm fully in again. And so then once I see that, I go the other direction and I start to pull back and then have none again. So
Justin, how did you get off gluten? Because you don't eat gluten anymore. Every time now we go out, we had a burger when we were driving up from interviewing Mark Bell, and that's the third time I've seen you order a burger wrapped in lettuce. You are are not eating gluten.
I've just trained myself to enjoy that. Like I actually crave a lettuce wrap versus a regular burger anymore. And it's mainly, for me, I've just really tried to pay attention to how my body reacts and receives, like if I eat bread, like it's almost within 5 minutes, like even faster sometimes, where I know like the result of what's going to happen just based off of like,
that's where you get the
acid reflux starts coming. It's just, it turns into something. Like, so for me, it's an avoidance of an unnecessary pain, that has conditioned me to then seek out other foods and really, like, I don't know, like I'm just in more of a place now where mentally like I get more enjoyment out of eating foods that benefit my energy, and it's just for me, just thinking about it differently, really. Like because there's foods out there that taste fucking great, but I don't miss them. So it's at that point. It took a long time for me to get to that place, though. So it's not like that was an overnight thing.
Yeah, it takes a while, 100%. I'll tell you what. Pay attention to how you feel when you don't eat these foods, and make positive associations with them. And,
that's the key.
And it makes it a lot easier.
Next question is from Adapt Nation. What do you think about eating and training as per your neurotype, depending on what transmitters are most dominant and or you are most sensitive to?
You know why I picked this question? Yeah.
This is like the blood type thing.
Yeah, you know why I picked this question? Because I think it's stupid to pay attention to a single factor like your neurotype, depending on your neurotransmitters and what's more dominant, or you serotonin dominant and dopamine dominant and all that other stuff. Here's the deal.
Isn't that also always changing?
Yeah.
It's not only that, but when you're and this is, again, we talked about wisdom earlier. This is a wisdom thing. When I'm training a client, when you guys are training clients, how many factors come into play that help you determine what the workout is going to be like today?
Right? Yeah.
So you could have the gene that says that you should work out like a strength athlete.
Yeah.
But you slept bad yesterday, you're a little stiff and sore in your joints, your workout, the previous workout we had was a particular way, your diet is I'm going to change my advice. I'm going to change how I train you. Mm-hmm. And so I think that these products and these books that come out that are like blood type training and train yourself according to your genes and train yourself according to your neurotype.
Just a gimmick.
It's total catchy gimmick.
Yeah. It's just like a somatotype. I mean, it's all these things we're trying to simplify all those variables for people and try and steer them in one particular direction. But you still have to be the one steering and understand like if any of those things really apply to you or not. And so there's just so many more factors involved than just, well, like we narrowed it down. Like the general consensus is this.
And even if
it never works out like that.
Even if these things had any sort of validity to it too, because there's the jury's still out on some of this stuff, right? Like we haven't like fully proven wrong, like the blood type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
nothing's really shown that it works.
That's
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it's nothing's shown that it really works, nothing really shown that it doesn't work, right?
So that's why it still sticks around.
Right. But the point is that I'm trying to make is that it's splitting hairs on the real difference that it's going to make in your overall fitness and health journey, and you're better off focusing on other things than trying to become so myopically focused here, right? I mean, I think it's ridiculous.
It's silly. I mean, look, if let's say I had a machine that I could take someone's blood, and when I got the results back, it said the absolute most effective form of cardiovascular activity for this individual is swimming. And I'm like, whoa, like this super advanced machine is telling me that if you swim, you're going to get the best cardio results from swimming over any of the forms of cardio. And I tell Mrs. Johnson her results. Hey, check it out. We're gonna swim because this is what your results said. She's like, I hate swimming. Okay, we're not doing it. Like literally, like you have to take all these things into account.
Right.
Even if all these factors. Look, I talk about traditional strength training as being the best form of exercise in the context of modern life for most people. I talk about that all the time. But if you fucking hate weight training and you really, really love yoga, and if your choices were yoga and nothing, what's better for you? Right. Yoga or resistance training, the one thing you're not going to do or the thing you're going to do? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So anytime you read something like this, I would take it with a grain of salt. I think it's fascinating. I think I would read into this and see what the theories are behind it and find it interesting. And people like to read about themselves. This is why horoscopes still exist. We know horoscopes are complete bullshit, even though Adam believes in them. But we know
Scorpios.
Yeah, we know they're complete baloney.
Just because I'm a cool sign.
But
we're the horniest.
Yeah, but people like them because we love reading about ourselves. Like if I wrote an article right now, I've been writing articles for Mind Pump, and we're always trying to get a lot of views. And if I wrote an article that said, hey, what your favorite color says about the kind of workout you should be doing,
right. Yeah.
We would get, how many people would share that?
Yeah, this is just marketing.
Yeah. If your favorite color is red, then you probably should be doing this workout, and I can make up some bullshit. People love to read about themselves. This is total waste of your time.
Yeah, because neurotyping, that, like you guys said, it could change. Like you could learn new skills. You can acquire new things. You could bridge new, fundamental things that your brain, fires in a different way because of. So it's not like you're always going to be that same person with that same neurotype.
And to that point, because I brought up the blood type too, because we may as well address it since I threw it out there. You could also be somebody who you're eating for your quote unquote blood type, and one of the foods on your blood type list could be something you're intolerant to now.
Sure.
Because you got leaky gut syndrome 10 years back, and you were eating a ton of the stuff that you were told that you're supposed to eat.
Overwhelmed your body with the same food, which now you build
now you have now you have an intolerance to it. So that you're focusing on these things, I think, is a waste of waste of time.
And your perception is something that what you perceive and what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy are, in my experience, more important than all of those things. Okay, so if I'm gonna help someone work out, one of the things that is at the top of the list of factors that contributes to how I train this person is, what do you enjoy doing? How much time can you realistically spend on exercise? I don't give a fuck what I think is best for you. If it's something you hate, we're not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to work with things you really enjoy doing because you're more likely to do it. So at the end of the day, you have to consider all those factors. And the most important thing is this: what are you going to enjoy doing? What do you want to do? Right. Start with that, and don't worry about your neurotype.
Yeah. It always amounts to constantly learn, constantly grow.
Mm. Next question is from Mr. Rota. What are your favorite strongman lifts?
When when we worked with
Robert Overs.
Yeah, to put together Map Strong.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun, and I'll be honest, I'd always seen the value and understood the value of lifts that strongmen did, but I didn't quite grasp the value for someone like myself, who, I have no interest in competing in a strongman competition. I do like strength, and I do like building muscle, and there's some exercises that strongmen do that, I would do other exercises instead of. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, if you do heavy trap bar farmer walks, you're going to build good grip strength, and you'll probably build good upper traps and that kind of stuff. But, I could do shrugs and deadlifts, and I'm typically not going to do that. But we wrote Map Strong. It had all these exercises that I don't normally do. And so I followed the program. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll write a program, especially something that's different than what we normally would do, and we'll follow it ourselves so we know what it feels like. And I did all these exercises, and let me tell you, they have value all on their own. Like heavy farmer walks with the trap bar, huge value in that. Like I built muscle in my upper back and strength in my grip, and again my upper back, that translated to my deadlifts later on.
Strength and stamina in that grip.
Dude, so
think about that and how applicable that is in almost everything.
Yeah, so now it's part of my routine. Now I'll do some heavy carries on a semi-regular basis. The other one is Zercher squats. I knew what their value was again, but I didn't really do them because I could do a front squat, I could do a deadlift, I could do other exercises. But no, man, front Zercher squats. Again, I built my arms got bigger from doing that, just from holding in that position, which it's not traditionally an arm exercise.
See, I loved the sandbag exercise, especially the shouldering sandbags, because for me, like to pick up awkward objects, that's a constant thing, especially where I live, like moving logs and grabbing objects, even just throwing my kid up over my shoulder. Like they're just, they're moving, they're squirming, it's awkward weight. It's way more applicable to like my daily life, like in general. So I feel like strong, just like picking up this object, throwing it up over my shoulder. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you're an everyday average dad or mom or whatever, like you're going to be faced with those types of things.
Yeah. One thing I like about the strongman lifts is that they do a lot of rounded back lifting.
Yeah.
So I don't mean like your lower back is super rounded where you're going to hurt yourself. What I mean is the upper back shoulder blades around it. So imagine if you grab a really big round. Imagine if you take one
barrel.
Like a barrel, or you have a big buddy that you want to like pick up like a wrestler. You have to round your shoulders in order to fully grasp around them, and then you have to lift.
I got a guy, he's Bob.
Yeah. So there's a because of the rounding of the upper back, you're developing tension in that position and developing strength in that position. A lot of exercises where you're lifting heavy, your goal is try and maintain more of a retracted shoulder blades. You're not getting lots of that rounded back or that hug position. And so some of the strongman lifts, incorporate that, and they build muscle.
Yeah.
What about the snatch grip stuff?
Well, so my favorite, it's funny you picked this question because today on my schedule to lift today, what I'm doing, and what I think I mentioned this in a podcast earlier, that my volume of training is pretty low. It's probably the lowest I've been in years. And the other day I spent the entire hour doing Turkish get-ups. Time before that I was just squatting the entire hour. So I've been doing like movements that I really enjoy, that have lots of carryover, that just working on the skill of them. And today I had already planned, which is funny we're bringing this up, circus press. And that is like a favorite.
Love that
that's a favorite move of mine. Bring it to me. It's so practical to a lot of things that you would have to do, is picking something up off the ground and then being strong enough to be able to stabilize it with your core, and then the ability to lift it up over your head is such a great movement. And I used to do a variation of the circus press. Now, the circus press that Robert Overs taught us was from ground all the way up. And I used to already do like a, single arm dumbbell press standing a lot. It was like one of my...
But it would stay up there.
Yeah, but it would stay up there. So I love incorporating it, bringing it from the floor all the way up, and then pressing over my head. Favorite move of mine for sure.
Yeah. What about the snatch grip, like high pulls and deadlifts?
Yeah.
Those were, I know Doug was there was
Talk about a back builder.
Well, Doug's been trying to build his upper back and traps for a long time, even when I first started training him, and that's always been an area he's focused on. And he's like, that's the most effective thing that he's done for his traps and upper mid back. And I will not disagree, because when I was doing those high pulls with the snatch grip, it would work my upper back in ways that no other exercise really has. I really have never felt the way that those exercises make me feel.
Yeah, no, money.
Next question is from Taylor Baca. What are the best and most paradigm-shattering things you have learned from your co-hosts?
Oh, wow. You're going to challenge us like that right now?
Yeah.
I got to think about that.
I have one.
Okay, good. You start then. So.
Yeah, I have one. One thing that I learned really well from both of you guys, and this is something that I had pride in myself for doing as well, but when you witness it in other people and you witness it the way I've witnessed it, it really challenges me to be even better at this. And, I get to work with these very intelligent, hardworking alpha men who are very good at what they do, very confident in extremely confident in what they do. But the humility that I've witnessed is just, I've never met people who are as confident as they are, as you guys are, but also as willing to be like, oh, I was wrong there, or I messed up there, I need to get better. Or I'm not good at that, let me do this even better. Like those are two things that usually don't go together. Usually you find someone that's super alpha, super confident, has a tough time with saying those things, has a tough time with acknowledging those things. But you guys are the humility is, and I think that's what true confidence really is. And it's been pretty awesome to work with because it really challenges me in being able to do that. On more specific levels, I'll start with Justin. He's got this ability to, he handles things in a very stoic manner. He doesn't, and, I know, Justin, you've said you've been criticized in the past for not letting your emotions out or whatever. But no, you are an expressive person, because now that I got to know you, you talk about what you want to talk about. It's not like you try to hide things, but you're stoic in the sense, and it's good because it puts everybody else at ease. Like if you're leading a team doing something and you're freaking out, everybody else can freak out. You don't. You're always like, you're fucking solid. Like, like if shit went down, Justin would be the dude you'd want by you, because you're going to feel like shit's going to be okay, even though maybe not. It's not going to be okay, but he's got that ability. Adam has an ability to just go up and talk to anybody and say anything. That's pretty cool thing to watch. I've had other friends that are good at that as well, but not quite as good as you. And so watching you be able to go up to people and say what you're going to say, and for it to be received the way it's going to be received, and then be able to just go into a room with people and have conversation the way you do, it's really cool. And it's a very cool skill that I now feel like I'm getting better with, because I'm around somebody who's better than I am at it. So
yeah, I'll go ahead and go next. I think obviously I bring this up all the time in terms of like how you guys communicate, and I pick up on it quite a bit, and I've actually learned the most from just watching how you guys deliver what you want to deliver, and the way that you guys both do it's different. And so I've definitely taken pieces of both of how you guys have brought and presented information on the podcast, and that's another to kind of go into the confidence thing. Obviously, like with the way that I pick up on with Adam, how he is able to kind of present information or just a thought, and he does that in a way that's like it's there's no holding back, and it's not necessarily, there's definitely critical thought that goes into like before he presents it, so it's not like he's just winging it, but at the same time I think there's a bit of a hesitancy I've always had, and there's something that I live in my head a lot, and that's something that I've been trying to sort of break over, that barrier of having an opinion and realizing that opinion and walking through that opinion. And so I think the delivery and like the storytelling and the way that you're able to communicate that, I've definitely picked up a lot from that. Same thing with Sal in terms of like just having just being able to recall information, but also like not. And I know you've read a lot of articles. I know you've read a lot of material where you could just regurgitate it like word for word at this point. But the way that you're able to extract and simplify the true message of it and the root of it, I think your delivery is definitely something that is unique. And I think that a lot of people can digest it very well. So those were definitely two things that like I've improved just as a byproduct of being around you guys.
So this is a little bit more challenging for me, especially with Justin, because I feel like much of the word paradigm shattering happened for me way early on of having him around me. Justin's been around me for a really long time, so there's not a lot that he does now that like surprises me. Like I think I have a really good understanding of who he is, and I've been long impressed with him. So I don't feel like there's been that much that in the podcast where I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe that Justin's like that. It's like that's part of why he's a part of this and why he's with me. I mean, I've got a ton of intelligent, great, smart trainers that I've been around my entire career that would have loved to have the opportunity to have joined forces with Sal and Doug. And there's a reason why Justin was. I really felt like he was everywhere I was weak, I felt he was really strong. And so we really complemented each other personality-wise. Now, some things that I have tried to apply now more that I think for him, and it's funny because the opposite, right? So what he's taking from me, I'm taking the opposite, which is, I try to collect my thoughts more than when I used to. So I can sometimes just respond how I feel and what's on my mind, and I'm trying to be in my head a little bit more and thoughtful about what I'm about to say, because not everybody who's listening to this podcast really knows who I am and knows that I'm coming from a good place, and so I'm trying to think a little bit more before I speak, and so that comes from him. But I definitely have had paradigm shattering moments with Sal and with Doug. I'll start with Doug first, since we didn't really touch on Doug. Something that I've always prided myself on is I may not be the most read or intelligent man in the room, but it's rare that I will ever be in a room of gentlemen and women, for that matter, that I work with that can outwork me. And it many times have I been surprised that I can send a message to the group thread or send a message to Doug at weird ass hours, and he's right there with me doing something. I'll be grinding away at something or looking at analytics or in our business somehow, and he's like, yeah, I'm doing this, and he's doing something on the business at weird hours like me. So, there is a good chance that even as old as he is, that he may be able to work me under the table, which is I love that, pushes me to a whole nother level. And then there's been several like paradigm shattering moments with Sal. I'll use an exercise one that I think is, since we didn't talk anything really about that stuff. He was really what got me into deadlifting as consistent as I've been deadlifting for the last few years. And that was when I was getting into competing, and him and I were sending back gay photos to each other, and he would tell me,
delete all those.
He would critique my physique, and he says, man, I mean, you should really, push the deadlifts more. And, I listened. I said, okay, yeah, sure, I kind of deadlift here and there. Yeah, sure, I was kind of squatting here and there, but never like a strength program, like much of what like MAPS Anabolic is like. And I really put a lot of energy and focus on it. And it blew my mind. And I've shared that on the podcast before. And he was the real catalyst to that. He was in my ear about that. I'm also always impressed with his ability to communicate his thoughts and his points. I think he is by far the most talented person that I've ever been around when it comes to making his point about something. I think he does it in a way that's probably a lot less polarizing than the way that I do it. And you got to be a real asshole, I think, to not receive what because he comes from a very pure place. He really does a very good job of looking at both sides of the argument before he presents his argument. He's extremely open-minded for it, as stubborn as he is. So that to be able to what's that called? To be able to live in two polar opposite. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a term for that where you can live in both ways and you can communicate that way. That's very
bipolar.
Not bipolar.
That's where I live.
That to me, when you see it live in action, and there's no preparation to this podcast. People ask that all the time. People used to always ask me, does Sal have a computer up and he's looking at all these studies? And that was for sure another paradigm shattering moment for me to witness at hand. Like, he literally is not cheating. There's nothing in front of him. He talks when the conversation flows in a direction that he had no idea. He has this ability to pull from this catalog of information that he has buried in his brain and regurgitate it damn near verbatim for what the study or the article said. It's just as unbelievable to watch in person as it probably is to listen on the podcast. So that was very paradigm shattering when I first got it. Now, I think a lot of these things that we're talking about right now, which is neat that we're visiting this, we take for granted because we're with it every single day. It's not even a big deal anymore. It's not a big deal, but it is.
Well, I think about how much I've changed because I'm around certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that just goes to show you, you want to hang around people that that challenge you in those ways, because you'll get better even if you're not trying to. I think you try. You ever notice this? You ever have a friend who has an accent? Like, I had a friend who was from England, and we were good buddies for a long time before he moved back to England.
Start talking with it.
I swear to God, I would hear myself have an accent every once in a while. What the fuck am I doing? I'm not even from... But it's a natural thing that you start to pick up on, and we do it all the time. I mean, there's verbiage that I know I say that I first heard Justin or Adam say that now is a part of my vernacular, and that's just a small part of it. But it's that growth that you get from being around those people. And you know what? Having kids, it's really important to know this, because then you can see the kids your kids are hanging out with. And you start to realize what your parents used to tell you about, be careful who you hang around with. It's very true. You could have the strongest character in the world, but if you're hanging around with a bunch of losers, you start to slowly become more of that. And so, being around these guys has really made me a better, smarter, more effective person. So it's a good question, because a lot of people are listening, are trying to better themselves, mostly physically, right? Because they're into fitness podcasts and all that. And it's like, look, if you're trying to eat better, you're trying to exercise more consistently, and the people you're surrounding yourself with don't care about those types of things, at some point you may have to make a choice where you have to kind of start being around people that
really fucking hard.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think about this every now and then. Especially, I feel bad for podcasters that are like flying solo, because they don't have like that constant criticism. Their ego will just keep going and going and going, and people either tell them they're great or they're not great. But there's that constant communication and checks and balances happening within this dynamic, I think, is really unique.
Excellent. So look, if you go to mindpumpfree.com, you can download any one of our guides for free. In fact, you can download all of them. You can have all of them for free. So there is no limit. mindpumpfree.com. Also, you can find us on Instagram. We all have individual pages. So my page is mindpumpsal. You can find Justin at mindpumpjustin and Adam at mindpumpadam.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now, plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.